Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more defensive testing, and today we got something a little special for y'all. If you're watching this the evening that this video comes out, then you know that it is Halloween. So we gotta come out here and have a little bit of fun on the range anyway, with a pretty interesting loading. I think it probably has a lot of marketing behind it more than anything else, but who knows, we'll see. So with it being Halloween evening, you gotta protect yourself against, ghosts, zombies, that kind of stuff. So with that, you probably need a special kind of ammunition, right? Well, I just so happen to find some of these. These are some Hornady Zombie Max certified zombie ammunition 12 gauge shells. They're a double-aught Z-shot buckshot load, so it's gotta work for your zombies and stuff that you might need your 12 gauge to protect yourself against. At least that's the thought anyway. And on the back here, you can see it's got a bunch of little zombie quips or whatever you want to call them here. A bunch of different stuff as to what those zombies have and why this ammunition is actually the perfect stuff to use for them. But in all reality, these are just a Hornady 12 gauge 2 3/4 inch 8 pellet double-aught load at 1600 feet per second. Even with all the marketing and stuff on the box, there's nothing special about them. From what I gather, they're the exact same as a Critical Defense or a Hornady Black, just in this fancy marketed box. But here's what one looks like out of the box. Very standard stuff, but it does have green text on it this time instead of the white or the red or any of the other combos you can find. Other than that, these are an 8 pellet double-aught. They're not plated, they're not buffered, but I believe these do have the Versatite wad in them, which is Hornady's version of the flight control wad. So in theory, these should perform very nicely for your average defensive type of scenarios, even though they are, special zombie shot, if you will. And as for the setup we're gonna run them in, you gotta go with an old reliable if you're fighting zombies, that being a Remington 870. This one's got the short 18.5 inch barrel, completely smooth bore, cylinder choke, so no constriction at all here. About as reliable as it gets for just up close and personal defensive stuff. So we'll see what this combo is able to do. But as for our test today, we're going to run it the same as we typically do with our home defense type of stuff, since that's really what these are. They're just marketed as a zombie shell just for fun purposes. So we're going to take 5 shots, all of them through the chronograph, ranging from 7 to 25 yards. So 7, 10, 15, 20, and 25. That should give us a very good idea on what this combo is capable of and how these shells actually pattern, both in the same room, down the hallway, across the living room, and if for whatever reason you would need to take a longer shot out to the driveway or the yard or whatever the case might be, if you're ever put in that situation, then we can see how they do out there as well. And that should cover all of our bases. So let's get you guys set up with a view of these zombie targets. They're painted white, so they might look a little more like ghosts, but hey, it's Halloween. Let's see what these Hornady Zombie Max shells might actually be able to do if you needed to defend yourself against some zombies that were invading your house. Alright, so let's take a peek through our chrono numbers real quick before we look at our zombie targets. The boss claim is 1600. However, I think it's fair to say that from our 18.5 inch barrel, we were not going to see that. And it seems like these are about the same that we were getting from the Hornady Critical Defense and stuff like that, just below the 1500 mark. So for a high, we had 1507. For a low, it was 1467. That gave us an average of 1484. So about what I was expecting, with an extreme spread of 40 and a standard deviation of 14. So at an average of 1484, 8 pellets worth of double-aught is going to be very effective for whatever you need to run these for. Whether it be home intruders, zombies, whatever the case would be, that's going to work for sure. But did it actually pattern well down there at our different distances? Let's go check it out and see. Alright, so let's start up close here with our 7 and 10 yard targets. And yeah, needless to say, that would be very effective. At 7 yards, we had 3 1/4 inches of spread. And at 10 yards, we opened it up a 1/2 inch to 3 3/4 inches. And that's kind of the best I can measure with the wad strikes right in the middle of everything. So at least out to 10 yards, I mean, that's going to do the job on any zombie or home intruder or whatever the case would be. And yes, it does appear like these are essentially the same same shell as the Critical Defense or the Hornady Blacks as well. That pattern is pretty well identical. They do have the Versatite wad in them, and this is exactly what I would have expected to see out of that combination. So looking very nice for a starting point. So now we'll move it out a little farther to 15 yards, and we still held a 6 1/8 inch spread. All 8 pellets are nice and evenly spread right there, with a wad strike still tight and up close with the actual pellets. So we know that the wad isn't really separating until about 10 yards or thereabouts. Once it gets past there, they start to open up just a little bit, but still 15 yards. I mean, that's down in the front yard or out to where the cars are parked in the driveway or anything of that nature. I wouldn't hesitate to use that combo all day long if for whatever reason I needed to take a shot at that distance. So now moving over here to our 20-yard pattern, we still kept a pretty even spread of pellets there. We opened it up a little more to 12 1/8 inch, but still everything is right within center mass. You would keep everything on the target that you were aiming at. I might have been just a hair to the right here, but it's still tight enough to where that's going to be very effective, no doubt about it. And I actually think that is our worst pattern of the day as well, or at least the most open spread. Because here we have our 25-yard pattern, and we are right back down to 11 inches of spread. We might have had one down there at the bottom that just started to be a little bit of a flyer, but I mean, 11 inches worth of spread at 25 yards, you can't say that that's not going to be effective. So everywhere from pretty much point blank or in the same room all the way out to at least 25 yards, which could be out to a shed or something of that nature, it's gonna work. Whether it's a home intruder, a zombie, if you gotta run these for some kind of other defensive load for bears or whatever the case would be, you're gonna be hitting them with all the pellets, at least out to 25 yards. So nothing short of effective here, that's for sure. So overall here, like I just said, this is about what I expected to see. It's very impressive results. I wouldn't hesitate to run these, you know, if I was in a zombie apocalypse or anything. That's going to get the job done, even though these are technically just a marketing scam more than anything else. But I mean, they work, they would do the job. But in all reality, for a defensive scenario, you're going to be perfectly fine with these. And I wouldn't try to search these out over a Critical Defense or a Hornady Black either. They're all the same shell from what I've seen anyway, unless you can get these cheap, then that might be an option, you know, after Halloween or something. But this is exactly what I thought we would see. Very nice results. No complaints for me on that one. I don't think there's going to be a zombie that can make it through that pattern. And here are a couple of those Versatite wads that I managed to find. A couple of them are a little smashed from where they actually hit the target, but this guy over here gives us a good idea of what's going on. If you've ever tested any of the Federal Flight Control stuff, it looks very similar, if not almost identical. No major damage, nothing stuck down in there. They deployed exactly how they were supposed to, with the little tail skirt pieces and stuff. So I would say they did their job perfectly fine. Nothing at all I'm concerned about here. And clearly, they can control the pellets very nicely. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that performance there? Overall, I would say if you had zombies invading your house or your property and you had some of these loads, I don't think they would get very far. It might seem a little bit gimmicky with marketing and stuff like that, you know, Zombie Max, Z-Shot, double-aught buckshot, and whatever the case would be. But in reality, these are the same stuff as Hornady loads with their Critical Defense type of lineup. So we know they're going to be some good performers. And that is a little rare sometimes. A lot of times when a company does some gimmicky stuff like that, a lot of times it's pretty junk or not worth it anyway. But here, I think it's just a case of Hornady wanting to have a little bit of fun, I guess, and just slapping a different box on some of the other shells they've got and they already know are reliable. So if you're going to do some marketing gimmick stuff, at least make your shells good, and I think Hornady accomplished that here today. I know if I was in a zombie invasion or any kind of home intruder scenario or anything like that and I had some of these shells, I'd be perfectly fine out to 25 yards, that's for sure. But leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these Hornady Zombie Max loads? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? If you were in a zombie apocalypse, is this the kind of shell you would reach for? Or would it be something else entirely? And I still have a few of those shells left, so let me know what other stuff you might want to see me do with them. Maybe we can run them through some different chokes or something like that and see what they're capable of. But leave all your thoughts down below and let me know what you want to see. But with that being said, I'm going to get back to all the normal testing for you guys because we've got a lot of really interesting stuff coming. So I'll see y'all in the next one.